Hi, let me show you something interesting. Everything you see here is created using basic shapes in Unreal Engine. We stack them in various ways inside the engine and we create this little scene. Here we have a set of trees and then we have a pond over there. So basically here we have a set of cubes scattered here and there, and then we have a windmill, it's rotating, and also the wind tower is made out of cones. Then here we have a little house. It is created using a set of spheres. And then here we have a gameplay component. I can move closer, it started to rotate, and then I can move further. It enables physics to these small cubes, but the large cube is still on the air. So basically we can selectively pick these instances and do anything we need. So here we can see some cubes and spheres and so on, but you can put any kind of a static mesh or any kind of Unreal Engine actor and do very interesting thing. So let's see how we can use that. So let's start with the house. So I can select the house from the well outline. So basically this is a simple cube and we remove the top face and also we make it a little bit circular and we simply scatter a set of objects around this. So let me scale this a little bit. Alright, now you can see we simply assign a single sphere for each and every vertices in this mesh. Right, so let me go to the details panel. So let me change the sampling algorithm to modify position 2D and I apply instances. You can see it will randomly scatter this like this. Then I can increase the density a little bit more. Right, now we have this. Maybe I can increase a little bit more. Okay, and then I can do this, and now we have a bigger house like this. Then let's have a look at the wind tower. So here you can see these blades and basically they are made out of cubes. We scale those cubes. Basically you can see it's a kind of polygon and I can increase the sides. For example, let's crank this number to 20 kind of thing. And then I can hit build mesh. You can see now we have this. So basically we assign a single this blade to each and every side on this polygon. As I mentioned earlier, you can see these are some cones. We stack them into a prism and we get this shape. Again, this is something similar. We have some cubes over there and we scale them in different ways and we rotate them in different ways and we have this. Now we have a basic understanding of this scene and how we did that, and let me show you how to do each of these things step by step. Alright, let's get started. Okay, everything we do here is based on a plugin called OpenLand Mesh. So first you have to get OpenLand Mesh from the marketplace and install that into the engine from the marketplace. Right, then go to your project and go to the view option on the content browser and make sure you have enabled both show engine content and show plugin content. And then I'm gonna search from the content browser over here. I'm gonna search for OpenLand Mesh. Then we have the OpenLand Mesh content directory. So here we have the example directory and here we have the maps, and I'm gonna go to the instancing map. So basically now you have the same demo that I showed you earlier. So you can start playing with this one if you like to do that. But right now I'm trying to go from the scratch. So I go to file, new level. And now we have the base level. Now we have to do a couple of changes to our editor layout. This is not a requirement, but it will help you to follow through on these tutorials quite easy. First, make sure you have two content browsers over there. We have one over there and we have another one here. And then make sure you put your details panel into another window. So now we have more room for our details panel, so which will be really useful when you are playing with settings here and there. And also we'll be using some dynamic meshes comes with OpenLand Mesh by default. So we need to open that directory in one of your content browsers. I'll use this one and I'm going to search for OpenLand Mesh content again. Alright, now I'm inside the OpenLand Mesh content directory. And here we have a directory called dynamic meshes. Go into that. Here we have some default shapes like cube, cylinder, grid and other stuff, but these are dynamic meshes. You can change how they look. And then you need to create another directory to work to place our static meshes and some of the dynamic meshes we create. So here we have our content browser, and then I'm going to create a new folder called my content. Alright, so I can place all the objects over there. Now we need to do one more thing before we begin the tutorials. So here we have the place actor section, and here we have some basic shapes like cube, sphere and so on. So try to drag one of these things into your map And in the details panel, you have this static mesh, and try to go to that location by clicking this search icon. Right. And select them all and drag that into your new directory on the left side, and try to select the copy here option. Right, then I'm going to my content directory. Now we have set up basic shape, and now we will be using these shapes to create our trees, house and other objects. Alright, let's start these tutorials. Alright, I want to mention this. The final goal of this tutorial is not just to show you how to use these basic shapes to create geometry inside Unreal Engine itself, but it's just for the educational purpose. End of the day, you can use any Megascan 3D asset you imported to the engine, or maybe some custom made assets from any other 3D engine like Blender, Maya or so. Alright, now let's make a tree. For that one, I'm gonna get a cylinder into my scene from the dynamic meshes, and I'm gonna hit the copy here. So let's give it a name like tree trunk. So that's my tree trunk. So let me double click on that. Alright, now we have this, and let me increase the height. Let's put something around 150 centimeters, and also I'm gonna reduce the radius top to something like 8 centimeters and radius bottom into maybe 50. Okay, and I'm gonna hit compile. Now you can see some sort of shape like this, and I think this is good to go. I'm gonna save it, and I'm gonna close this. So when I drag this tree trunk to the scene, you can see now we have decent shape that we can work with. Then I'm gonna drag another cube, dynamic mesh cube, into my new content directory, and again I'm gonna copy that. Here let me rename this as tree. Okay, I'm gonna drag that into my scene. Okay, now we have a cube over there. That's pretty cool. This is a dynamic cube that created using OpenLand Mesh, so we can instance actors and static meshes on top of this mesh. Right, then go to the details panel. Here we have a couple of sections. We have the OpenLand Mesh section, and then we have another one called OpenLand Mesh instancing. That's what we're gonna use right now. Here we need to create a new instancing group. Right, expand that. Now you can place objects. Right now I'm gonna put the tree trunk. In this case, I'm gonna use actor because our tree trunk is an actor created using OpenLand Mesh. Okay, so I'm gonna select that. I'm gonna hit this arrow icon. All right, now we have the tree trunk over there. Cool. And here the sample algorithm. So basically, that's how we can create points on this mesh. So I'm gonna use very simple one. Use origin. So only one at the origin. Okay, everything here looks good, and I'm gonna hit the apply instances. Now you can see we have this actor, so basically tree trunk over there. Then I can play the game. So now you can see we have this tree, but now inside the game we can see this cube as well, which is not useful at all. So we can try to hide that inside the game. So open the OpenLand Mesh section and go to the bottom, and we have a option called mesh visibility. So we have a couple of options. Here I'm gonna select the hide in game, and I'm gonna build that. Alright, then I can play the game again. Now you can see inside the game we don't see that cube, which is pretty great. So now I'm gonna create leaves, or something act as leaves. In this case, I'm gonna select the sphere from my existing content directory, right click and duplicate that. Alright, let's give it a name like tree top, and then again I'm gonna select the tree actor from the map. Go to the OpenLand Mesh instance in section. In this case, I'm gonna create another instancing group because we are trying to instance these tree drops. Here, I'm gonna select the placement object as static mesh. Okay, and I'm gonna drag this into here. Cool. Now we are gonna use the sampling algorithm called modified Poisson 2D, which is a random sampler. And I'm gonna hit apply instance for right now. All right. I think we have too much of these spheres over there. So let me reduce this to maybe 1, maybe 2. Okay, that's fine. So but now everything is under the bottom of this tree, which is not useful. So what we can do is, so we can here section called random displacement. Okay, here I'm gonna increase the height of this placement by 150 centimeters. Right, then I can apply instances, but you can see it applies 150 centimeters from the normals of these points, which is not useful in this case. So in this case, I'm going to uncheck this use local displacement option, and I'm going to apply instance again. Right now we have this. Now let's play the game. Alright, now we have a very simple tree. So I can customize these settings and get something that I feel nice. And of course you can assign materials into these static meshes as well. That's why we duplicated these static meshes rather than simply reusing these ones. Alright, then I can simply hit alter and copy another version and hit apply instances. Now we get this. But if we simply drag the actor into the scene, we don't see anything because our blueprint doesn't have these settings. Now we are going to apply that. So let's delete this cube and select one of these tree meshes, and here inside the instancing group, right click on that, copy that. Then I can open this blueprint. Then I can go to the OpenLand Mesh instances section on this blueprint details panel, right click and paste. So basically we copied all the changes we made on the map into the blueprint. So I can compile and save. So now I can simply drag this tree actor, and as soon as I place that on the map, it will start instantiation. Alright, let's try to play it again. One mistake. Here we forgot to change the visibility on the blueprint. So we can do that as well. Right? Hide in game. Alright, we are good to go. Alright, now let's start creating the house. First, I'm gonna delete all these trees. Then I'm gonna duplicate a sphere. And let's rename it as large brick. So consider this as a brick. Then I'm gonna drag this cube from dynamic meshes and copy that. And let's give it a name like house. Alright, then I'm gonna drag that into my scene. In the details panel, we have option to like remove top or bottom. So I'm gonna remove the top surface. And then I'm gonna open the OpenLand Mesh section and I'm gonna hit build mesh. Alright, and then you can see we don't have the top. Then I'm gonna go to the OpenLand Mesh instances section. I'm gonna create a new group, and then I'm gonna place some static meshes. Then my static mesh should be this large brick that we created, and then I'm gonna select the sampling algorithm as vertices. Alright, then everything looks good, and I'm gonna hit apply instances. Here we have like 8 vertices on the corners. Yeah, that's as we expected, but this is not what we want. Let's first change the scale a little bit. Let's give it a 0.2 maybe. I think it's too little. Let me put 0.3 to 0.4. So we can give it a range. So then it will pick up some random value between this range. Alright, so this is fine. And then I'm going to open the OpenLand Mesh section and I'm going to subdivide this. So let's subdivide one time. Okay, another time. Alright, now we have this. Cool. Still, this is not looks like a house, but we can change that. In order to do that, we need to run some vertex modifiers to actually change the shape of this cube, which is quite easy to do. I'm gonna open the house blueprint, and here we can change each and every vertex of this mesh. In order to do that, I'm gonna go to my blueprint section, and I'm gonna hit the function override. I'm gonna select this on modify vertex. Right, I'm gonna remove this. Then I'm gonna right click on this and split struct pin. Right click here, split struct pin. So basically here we have the position, and I'm gonna modify the position a little bit. I'm gonna normalize this. So we get the normalized vector, and I'm gonna multiply that by some value. Let's say that's a radius 100. So I'm gonna assign a variable for that one. So let's give it a name like radius, and I'm gonna enable that in the editor, instant editable, and I'm gonna compile. And then I'm gonna select the output into the position. So basically now we have a sphere here. So I'm gonna compile that. Nothing happens. That's totally fine. So because we haven't enabled these vertex modifiers. So in order to do that, I'm gonna hit the components tab, select the root component, and here we have something called run CPU vertex modifiers. Check that and compile again. Right, now it looks something like this. That's totally fine because we don't have much vertices. Let's start with 2 subdivisions by default. Alright, now we have this. Right, now this looks like a little bit ugly. That's fine. So we can fix that. Now go to the My Blueprint section. Here we have another blueprint called Get Polygon Mesh. By default, this blueprint has pivot point at the bottom, but we need the pivot point to the center. So we can easily do that by simply removing this pin, right? And I'm going to hit compile. So now we have a sphere. Pretty cool. Then I can build mesh on the here as well. Now we get what we really want. Then I'm going to rotate it a little bit. Then I'm going to put it down. Right, now we have house. Then I can scale it as I want, like this. Now what I can do is I can add more vertices. I can subdivide a little bit more. Right, now we have this house. Okay, then I can start the player and okay, it's too little. So what I can do is I can scale it a little bit more. All right, then I can increase the subdivision, or I can simply increase the size of these spheres. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Here, let me put a value like 0.5 to 0.6 as the size. But here and now everything looks uniform, so we need to have a little bit randomness. That we can do quite easily. Here, after the random uniform scale, we have random 3D scale because we can scale each and every axis. So what I'm trying to do is I'm going to increase little like this. I'm going to, yeah, okay, like this, and I'm going to hit apply instances. Right, now we have different random sizes over there. I can even do some rotation as well. Yeah, let's give it a try. So these are from degrees. So now we have some random, yeah, randomness to this house. Now if you look carefully, we are getting a really bad frame rates, but that's not because we have so many instances, but that's some lighting issues. We're gonna fix that right now. So hit the light source or maybe sun actor in your game and make it movable. That's all you have to do. Now start playing the game. Now you get the maximum performance you get, because usually GPUs can handle a lot of instances. All right, now we are done with the house. Okay, now let's create the windmill. So we are starting with the rotating wheel. In this case, I'm gonna use a cube as the blade. Then I'm gonna duplicate this cube from my content. Right click, duplicate, and give it a name like wind blade. Then from the dynamic meshes, I'm gonna grab a regular polygon. Copy that. Then I'm gonna rename it to wind wheel. Okay, let's drag that wind wheel into the scene. So basically we will get a triangle like this. From the details panel, I can increase the number of sides. So let's go somewhere around 6 sides, and I'm gonna hit build mesh. All right, and I can check the wireframe mode, and you can see we have a polygon with multiple triangles. Okay, now I'm gonna assign this wind blade, the cube, into the centroid of each of these triangles that I have mentioned here. Then I'm gonna expand the OpenLand Mesh instancing tab. Here I'm gonna create a new instancing group, and then here we're gonna place some static meshes. Then I'm gonna drag my wind blade into here. Okay, and sampling algorithm will be centroids. Then I'm gonna pick the center of each and every triangle on this mesh and put this static mesh. Then I'm gonna hit apply mesh. So now you can see these cubes are a little bit larger. I'm gonna change the size, the random scale. Let's put something around 0.2 maybe. Alright, now you can see these cubes are placed on the center, but they are rotated in a different way. So basically when you are placing an object into a 3D space, you need to worry about 2 axes. Number 1 axis is C axis. Now it's placed along our global C axis, that's fine. But then we need to place our X axis in some other direction. Now it follows the global X axis, that's fine in most cases. But in this case, we need to follow the X-axis into the center of this polygon. So that's what we're going to do right now. In the instancing group section, we have something called calculate tangent X. By default, we are going to use the UV coordinates. So that's the usual way, but we can have some other options. Number 1 is to pivot. So we're going to select that one, and I'm going to hit apply instances. Now you can see our cubes now looking at the center, and that's exactly what we need. Then I'm going to resize the cube to make it looks like a, so basically I can increase the X-axis maybe 3 times, maybe a little bit more. Okay, then I'm going to put 0.1 as a Z-axis. Okay, now we have some sort of blade. Then I'm going to hide this polygon inside the game. In the OpenLand Mesh section, we have the mesh visibility. I'm going to hide that in the game. I'm going to build it. I'm going to run it. Okay, now we can see this wind blade. Okay, that's cool. Now we need to rotate this. So this is how we're going to do this. And I'm going to rotate it like this. So now you can see without doing any work, so I can rotate it like this. So that's what we want. So basically I need to rotate this blueprint or the actor. So it's pretty easy to do. Then I'm going to open the wind wheel blueprint. Here I'm going to rotate this polygon. Now go to the event graph. In the begin play action, get it like this and search for timeline. Okay, I'm going to add a new timeline. I'm going inside into this timeline and click this F icon, add a float track and give it a name like rotation. Then I'm going to right click over this graph, add key, and let's put a time as 0 and the value should be 0. I'm going to create a new key and the time should be 5 and the value should be 360. Then I can hit these two buttons and I'm going to focus the graph. Right, then I'm going to save this, go to the event graph. Now I'm going to go to the components tab, drag the mesh component into the scene. I'm going to get it like this. I'm going to set relative rotation. Okay, and it should be happened on each and every update. Then I'm going to split this rotation vector and I'm going to put the rotation into the z-axis because we need to rotate it on the z-axis within this time. And I'm going to compile that. I'm going to simulate. Now you can see it's rotating, right? But it stopped after the 5 seconds. The reason is we didn't add looping into this timeline. So what we can do is simply click this loop and that's all we need. Now I'm going to my map and I'm going to play this. All right, now we have a rotating wheel on our scene. So this is the basic windmill. So here you can add a new object into the center by using the another instance group, but that's the homework for you. All right, now let's create the wind tower. That's quite easy. I'm gonna get a regular prism from the dynamic meshes into the scene. Copy that. I'm gonna change it as wind tower. All right, let's put it into the scene. So let me change the height into maybe 400 centimeters and radius top should be 10 centimeters maybe. Let's see. All right, like this. I think I only need 4 sides. All right, cool. And then let's go to the wireframe mode. So basically we have some rows. Then here this row slightly looks like a rectangle. So then let's try to increase the number of rows, like 8 rows. Right now it's quite similar to a square. So then we can easily subdivide it. So then I'm going to go to my OpenLand Mesh section and put subdivisions into 2 maybe. All right, now I'm going to put some objects into each and every vertex and we can upgrade the tower. And then I'm going to remove the top and bottom part of the mesh because we don't need to put anything on there. Then I'm going to duplicate this cone in our my content section and let's give it a name like tower brick. So let's try to spawn them. Go to the OpenLand Mesh instances section, add a new group. So this should be an static mesh and I'm going to drag the tower brick into here. Okay, here sampling algorithm should be vertices, right? And then let's try to apply and let's try to change the size, maybe 0.2 maybe. Actually it works, but the problem is now you can see there are some cones are rotating in a not angle that we want. So we can easily fix that. We can go to the OpenLand Mesh section of this wind tower. So we're gonna smooth the normals of this mesh. So I'm gonna put 90 degrees on the smooth normal angle. I'm gonna hit build mesh and voila, now we have this. Then I can place this wind wheel into the top and we are done. Right, this is how we create our wind tower. Of course, you have to add some materials and add the wind motor into this rotating wheel, and after you have done that, we are pretty much good. Okay, now I'm going to show you how I created this secret cube. So let me show you again. Basically, when I go closer to this set of cubes and they start rotating, and now you know how to rotate things like this because it's the same principle as the wind wheel. But then I go closer, I can touch them. After that, they activated physics somehow and they drop into the scene. Then basically we are interacting with these instances and try to do something. Now look at it. And there are all the small cubes goes down, but center cube is still on the air. So basically we can selectively do anything into these static meshes or actors. So let's see how we can do that. Since we already know most of the stuff, so I'm not going to recreate this from scratch. Instead, I'm going to show you how I made this. So here we have the secret cube. So basically it's a cube. You can see the over there and we hide that in the game. So let's hide it always. Right. And now you can see we have a cube inside that, a large cube, and there are some other cubes over there. And here's how to do that. in the instancing group, so we have these small cubes and we use the random algorithm to scatter them. Then we scale the cubes from here to here. Okay, then we get a range. That's fine. Then we have random rotation. Yes, I'm doing some random rotations. That's how you get this. And then we have random displacement. So I can reset this, put in 0, and I'm gonna apply. Now everything is scattered on the actual mesh. So then I can crank it like this. Now you can see they are going away from the actual point. So now we have a range over there. It's not uniform, so it's a random value and we get something like this. And of course we can do this in multiple directions as well, and by doing that we can get something pretty interesting. Yeah, that's how easy it is. So then how we are trying to interact with this, that's we are doing inside the blueprints. So let me show you how to do that. So now let's go into the blueprint. You can go directly from here on the world outline. So here we have two collision triggers, one in the center and one in this place. The larger one is the rotation trigger. Now we have an event for this one called on begin overlap. We can edit by right clicking over here and get the event. Then we check the colliding actor, whether it's the character or not. Okay, so you don't need to worry about this right now. And then we started to rotate this mesh, and that's exactly what we did in the wind wheel. Then we have another trigger over there. Here we also checking for the begin overlap. Now we again check the actor, and then we have a new function called get instance for owner. So this is coming from OpenLand Mesh. Then right click and search for get instances for owner. So you need to click this, and then this owner mesh should be the self. You can create a self node and put it like this. So then we'll get all the instance actors for this current mesh. So then we get a list of actors. Then you need to cast that into the actor. You put it there and do anything with that. In this case, we have some static meshes. So I'm gonna cast that into OpenLand static mesh actor. So this is the actor that we use when you are placing a static mesh. If the cast is okay, then we simply enable physics. So that's all we did. So basically, if this is a custom actor, you can invoke any method in that actor and do any custom logic. That's how we interact with these individual instance objects. All right, I think we are done here. Try to get OpenLand Mesh and try to do very cool things. And of course, the idea is not to use just spheres like this and try to create a low poly version like this, but rather trying to use actual static meshes from Megascans, or maybe stuff you created using Blender or any other 3D software, and try to rearrange them in a very interesting ways inside the Unreal Engine and create something unique. This will be really useful with Unreal Engine 5. With Unreal Engine 5 and Nanite, we can instance a lot of static meshes and we don't need to worry about the performance cost because Nanite will take care of that. So now with a tool like this, you can instance a lot of objects even at the runtime and do very interesting things. At the moment of this video recording, we don't have the UE5 support, but we will have that quite soon, and stay tuned. All right, see you soon with something interesting. Bye.